Donna, nice to meet you. It's a great pleasure to be with you here. I was a gay teenager impacted by the movie In Bed with Madonna and all its messages about the gay community. It had a huge influence on me. So I want to thank you for being part of this. It's very important to me.
Yes, well, I'm happy to be here with you.
Thank you.
Just to let you know, I will introduce the topics of our interview in Portuguese to make it easy for our followers to understand, and then we will ask you everything in English. Ok?
Great.
Literais, sejam todos bem-vindos a mais uma entrevista do Madonna Literal. Hoje a gente tem a honra de receber essa estrela aqui, que vocês já repararam. É muito legal trazer esse trabalho, esse conteúdo para vocês. Os meninos vão dar continuidade a Cláudia e o Sérgio na entrevista, e eu quero que vocês saibam que nessa primeira parte a gente vai falar sobre o início da descoberta artística da Dona, como ela se viu como artista, como ela descobriu seus talentos, e é isso. Meninos, é com vocês.
So, Donna, again, it's an honor to have you here. Thank you so much. And my first question is, can you tell us a little about your background? Where do you come from?
Well, I grew up outside of Los Angeles in the Valley. I'm a Valley girl. Um, and my dad was in music. He was in the music business. He was a player, session musician, and a producer. And actually, my grandfather played upright bass with Warner Brothers Orchestra. So he played in a lot of films like Casablanca, Gone with the Wind. He raised my father to be a musician. And
Cool.
whether my dad liked it or not, he was going to be a musician, believe it or not. And they saw this. My dad was like a child prodigy when he was a kid. So they saw that in him. He started playing with big bands as a teenager in LA at some of the big theaters like the Pantages, a lot of theaters that are legendary in Los Angeles. They were, maybe in the 40s were going on with the big bands. So that was my dad in the business. My mom also was a singer dancer, and she taught at a dance school. So when they met, it was through music, and I just was raised in this musical household. I was either, at home listening to my dad play the piano, or I'd be in the studio with him while he was producing. And as soon as I got to be a certain age where I could ask if I could sing on those records, I would ask my dad, and I would bug him and say, "Why can't I sing on that?" And my sister, older sister, 8 years older, Jolene, was a professional singer when she was maybe around 10 or 12 years old. She started singing professionally, and I was 8 years younger. So then when I became 8 years old, I started getting jobs myself singing professionally. So I sang, my first job was a dog food commercial, and it was just audio. So it was just in the
Oh,
studio, and I was painfully shy. And I was at the mic, and the man who was directing me had to come stand next to me and just for support because there were all these adults on the other side of the glass, and I was so scared. But I got the job because I had a really strong voice, and it my voice had a little bit maybe of a huskiness in it, so I could also sound like a boy. And so I got a lot of jobs, and I grew up singing professionally, and I knew that was something I could do and make money. And then as I got
Interesting.
older, I wanted to be an artist, of course. As soon as I was listening to like Stevie Nicks, uh, Linda Ronstadt, Barbara Streisand, all of these big diva female voices like Pat Benatar. As soon as I heard those and fell in love with their voices, I knew I wanted to do that too.
Oh gosh. And
wow.
how did you develop your voice? Because it was an innate gift, right?
Mhm.
But how did you develop it to maturity? Did you study a lot, or it was just,
No, we had to go to this little school where we had to learn as kids. If we wanted to do the jobs, we had to learn sight reading. And they taught us like the recorder, like basic sight reading. So when we were on the jobs, these composers would put this music in front of us. And sometimes one of the jobs was The Exorcist 2, the movie. And the notes, I just remember were going so fast. It was like, and we had to like read this. And we couldn't work unless we learned to read. So I went to that little school for, separate kind of music schooling. But I didn't ever, wasn't until I was about 16 that I started studying voice.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would like do my voice exercises with my teacher, and I'd walk out of there like floating. Like I'd be floating in my car, like, wow. Like it was, I'm sure it had to do with the breathing deep.
Mm-hmm.
But the resonance of the sound in my body, I wasn't fully conscious of what it was doing to my body, but I felt high from singing.
Uh-huh.
And it was something like I knew I had a good voice. I could do that. My teacher really believed in me. He wanted me to study and be like Celine Dion, that kind of voice. But I was so cool, and I wanted to be in a rock band, and I wanted to be more like Stevie Nicks,
Mm-hmm.
more vocal stylist than, real legit singer. So I shied away from that. Now I kind of wish I would have done that, but to have that like crazy technique. But I did enough. I had tapes that I would run, and it was always like right before a job or later on going to an audition. I would run those tapes to more of a warm up my voice and to kind of maintain my voice.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't trying ever to be like this big soprano opera singer, or I wasn't trying to do Broadway or anything. I was really interested in being an artist.
And how did you get into showbiz? Because you started young, and then how did you get into this showbiz life?
So I was remembering last night, as a kid, I had an agent, and they would send me out on jobs and things. But when I was, I would do some jobs. Like I did a commercial with John Stamos, I remember. It was like a department store commercial. And then I would go to Nashville because my mom died when I was 16 of breast cancer. And I had to go live with my dad. My dad was moving to Nashville to produce records and be a string arranger. So I had to go there. So I remember like my agent calling me, we have a job, we have an audition, but then I'd be in Nashville. So I was always going back from Nashville to LA and trying to kind of stay in the business and try to get jobs. But I was also working in Nashville. And then my dad started producing me as a country singer.
Country.
And I was like,
Country.
And I loved country music, but the problem was, it's like I was so into new wave, and I loved the Human League, and I was into dance music because I grew up dancing. So that's a whole nother part of me, I love to dance and move. So as soon as I knew about dance music and that possibly like, don't you want me, baby? That kind of music, those records I was listening to at that time, then I was like, I want to be like that. But my dad was producing me country, and I was trying to, be successful in Nashville because that's where my family was. But I had to go back to LA when I was 17. And I didn't really have anywhere to live. I mean, those were my years, like 17 to 19, when I was like really struggling. And I just would sleep on someone's couch. I literally used to go into recording studios and sleep on the couch, in front of the control rooms of the studios and wait for the producers to come out to talk to me, so I could talk to them and say, can I go in and sing? And then I'd get jobs answering phones at recording studios. And I literally just had to work my way up from the bottom. And a lot of people would say, oh, your dad was a producer, you had like an in and everything. It's like, no, because my dad was well known in like the 60s, in early 70s, and now we're into the 80s, and he was in a different genre. It was more like country pop. So I had to start from nothing and taking acting classes, singing classes, trying to go to music school. I didn't go to college because I didn't really know I could go to college and study music.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, also, I just knew like I got to get in this. Like, yeah, it's such a youth-oriented business that I felt the pressure to get into it young because
Uh-huh.
I knew, okay, it could take me 5, 10 years to make it. And, I got to right away start getting back to LA and going and knocking on doors and everything. And I had little demo tapes, cassette tapes, believe it or not, that I took
Fabulous.
around. And I used to go to like publishing houses, like people who represent songwriters, and I'd get them to for free, duplicate my tapes. So there'd be like 30 tapes. And I just had, I started making friends in the business that were trying to help me.
Okay.
And, and that's what happens. And then I became like a demo singer. So
Mm-hmm.
people would pay me like $50 to sing their song.
Okay.
And then word got out that I was like the female pop demo singer. So anyone who was trying to get their song to, like Sheena Easton or the Bangles or anyone at that time would have me do the demo for it.
That's
And
interesting, inspiring.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
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 yeah, so I was like, $50 here, $50 there. It all added up to something.
Mhm.
So I eventually got to like stop my 3 waitressing jobs and I could just do music, and I was rushing around all over the place just singing demos. And then once in a while I'd get a job like a commercial or singing on a record, which was
Mm-hmm.
really nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Chico,
Né?
please.
Vamos falar agora sobre os projetos atuais da carreira da Donna. Na verdade, os últimos projetos. There is a new music now. Tem uma nova música dela rolando nesse momento. E a gente quer falar sobre isso. Qual?
Yeah. Our question is, what are you working on now?
Okay, so now I've been working, I've been doing tracks with Niki Haris and Tracy Young. So we've been releasing some dance tracks. And so that's a project that I think is just going to continue to evolve and we're going to keep releasing material and working together and hopefully get into a room and write together soon. And then I've got my own music, which I do a lot of music for yoga and kind of, I don't know what you guys call it there, but it's like for meditation, yoga,
Mm-hmm.
conscious
Yeah.
living. I've
Can
kind
we
of
call it
created
new wave or not?
new age.
New age, yes, not new wave. Yeah, new age.
Yeah, so that's like in the Grammy categories,
Mm-hmm.
it's new age ambient chant. So it's like this whole category of a lot of people are making music like that now. That it's more like maybe relaxing and help you center, and it's like really good for your quality of life.
Yeah, yes.
I always wanted to be a rocker and sing, with my voice like
And how-
really strong, but people used to tell me I had this beautiful voice and that I
Mhm.
should use it that way.
Yeah.
So I am now.
So that's the way you got into this kind of music because you like dance, pop music, and then you
Mhm.
started into this meditation. I
Yeah.
think on Friday there was a new release. It's a song, a new song, right?
Yeah, it's a remix of a song
Yeah.
from another album.
Mhm.
And it's just a beautiful prayer about going out of the darkness into the light, and
Yeah.
a beautiful ancient Sanskrit prayer, which I always loved. And
Mhm.
Too.
those words are like sound vibration formulas, let's say. So I always would hear those words and I was drawn to them before I knew what they meant. And then I started singing them and they feel really good to sing.
Yeah.
So then I started composing songs with English and those Sanskrit words,
Mhm.
which, a lot of like scholars like Joseph Campbell have talked about the great spiritual language of the world. So I was drawn to that. I still am. I do a lot of songs in English, of course,
Mhm.
and I'm definitely a singer-songwriter, but I love that I have this separate path and I can, create music that can really help people in many ways, just to get back into their hearts.
Mhm.
To a lot of people say they play the music for their children to calm them down, or another person will say, I was playing it during my birth. Or someone will say, when my mom was dying, we were only playing your music. And then other people, just their stories about healing with the music. That's what's so important to me.
Yeah.
And I actually made an album called Sing to the Light, which is my last full album that came out last year. That was from my own healing journey. You know, I had a really big health challenges, and in that time, I was collaborating with my guitar player, and he was sending me music, and I got to write these very positive words and beautiful melodies over the music, and I could work like while I was healing, and I really believe it saved me, this music.
Yeah.
So it has a real, that intention, and since that was so healing for me, my intention is to have people have that same experience with it.
Yeah.
So that's the power of music.
Yes. I do it myself. I listen to you, Enya, Lorena McKennitt. This kind of healing, for me, it's absolutely healing. I love it. I do love it. And simultaneously, you had a single with Nick, with Rain,
Oh, yeah.
5 years ago, I think. Yes. And how was this? How did you come up with this idea? You two singing Rain together.
Yeah, I hadn't, Nikki moved to Augusta, Georgia, and I hadn't seen her in a long time. And we started like communicating again and saying we should do something together, and we weren't, we weren't trying that hard at that time. We were just saying, yeah, let's get together and sing something. So then I recorded a song called Kinder on my album called The Unchanging. So I sent her the track of me just singing a cappella, and she put a harmony on it and sent it back to me. Then I put another singer, a beautiful singer, Tina Malia, on the track as well, on the high part. And Nikki was on the low part under me. And it was just so beautiful. And people loved it, and it did so well. And that was like our first time singing together again after all those years. So then when we started saying, let's do a song together, we just both had incredible memories of being on stage during the Girlie Show, sitting on those stools with those black robes, singing Rain together, And it's like we have peak moments of our lives that we'll never forget. And out of all those tours I did, performances and everything, I have those peak memories of those moments that were so simple.
Yeah.
We were just sitting there looking into each other's eyes, and it was a point of stillness in the show, which was amazing. So we could really just look at the audience and feel the audience singing with us. So we loved the arrangement. We were part of the creation of that, because in the rehearsal process with the band, we were all contributing. So we thought, let's base it off that live arrangement instead of the record arrangement. And then we got a guitar player in the room, and Nikki and I came up with the arrangement for our version of it. And we wanted to keep it really organic, so we just went in with guitar, and then I overdubbed some things, maybe bass and maybe percussion to the track, but we wanted it to stay really organic because we needed to start with our voices and then build up from there. So now, we know we've done shows together acoustically and with a band, and we know all, as Nikki says, all the colors that we can paint with our voices. We know what those are.
Yes.
And we have said, Nikki and I think we're better than ever, and we both have our own careers and our own paths, but when we come together and do this, it's really powerful.
Yeah,
and I hope we can do this for a long time.
We hope so. We hope so.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, Rain is my favorite song. This performance in Girlie Show is my favorite ever. I was talking to Clau earlier, because what happens? That's a dynamic concert, theatrical. And at this very moment, you two look at each other's eyes, and there's something there that we don't understand. We just feel, now I'm talking and I have goosebumps because,
just see the light of this performance. It's so beautiful.
Yes, it is something. And
it was magical. And the fact that like when you're singing with someone and we could look at each other, and I remember I could look at Madonna, and if we were on the same note, by looking at her too and seeing her mouth move. It's like I could blend with her so perfectly.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Oh,
it's an added bonus when you could sing with someone and be right there in front of them looking at them. That's why we always did the warm up before the show, looking at each other singing, because it really gets you connected.
yeah. We see that connection. It's tangible. It's
Mhm.
strange how I feel. I can see something. It's crazy, crazy. Quite interesting. All right. Chico,
Literais, a gente sempre faz essa pergunta entre os fãs, como a Madonna chegou na sua vida, né? Como ela impactou, como você conheceu. Com a Madonna não vai ser diferente. Aqui a gente vai descobrir como ela descobriu a Madonna, isso antes do contato profissional que as duas tiveram. Clau.
We like to know what were your impressions when you saw Madonna for the first time before working with her back in the era of the first album, like a virgin.
Wow. So I went to, I'm sure you guys know a lot of my story, but I knew the producer. I'd been working with Patrick Leonard. And I thought, because he mentioned, there's a spot open. Would you be interested in doing it on this tour? I knew all about the tour because I'd been bugging him for months. When I went in to work with him in the studio, I'd say, I'd be perfect for that tour and everything. And our voices would sound great together. So I thought he was going to call me back and say, come meet Madonna at the studio. But instead, he called me back and said, they decided to have a big audition and they want to do like an open call audition, which means like anyone can come. But it was a lot of singers in LA that came to the audition. So we were at a rehearsal hall where the band was set up on the ground floor. And then we were all to go to the loft, which looked over the stage. So all these singers were up there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got to get this job. It's perfect for me. And I'd done so many auditions in LA that I didn't get. And I was like, I'm getting this one. So I was just up there waiting, hoping that I'd get a chance to just sing with Madonna, because I knew if I could sing with her by myself, I could get the job. So I heard her voice and I looked over like the banister, I looked down and I saw this like little person with a suit on, like shorter hair and glasses. And it definitely was a cute look. I remember she looked really cute. But then I didn't know it was her, but I heard her voice and I was like, okay, that's Madonna. So at that point, like the rehearsal started going and I was just impressed right away by the power that she had and the control. And she was leading the whole thing. She got the band to start playing, and then we came down in groups and sang with her. And then Pat Leonard stopped us and asked me to sing the bridge to La Isla Bonita just with Madonna.
Wow.
And I think that's what really got me the job because I guess her back was like to me at a certain point, and I was singing. And it was sounding great. I remember I was like, yes, I was so happy. I just had that opportunity. And she turned around like, why aren't you singing? And then Pat said, she was singing. You guys sound perfect together. Like, and I guess Pat had been telling her you guys would blend perfectly. So then she looked at me and said, well, will you sing on all my records?
oh,
And I was like, sure. And then I
those,
still didn't know if I had the job. It took a while to get it, but my first impression was just to be around, a female in the business. I mean, I'd already been so impressed by her music and her artistry, but to see how in control she was, and right away it influenced me to see that.
I see, I see. You were talking about the auditions for Who's That Girl tour.
Yes,
Yes.
1987.
And so was Nikki. She was also hired for this. And
Later she came in. Yeah,
not in the beginning.
later. No, they were they were just replacing someone with me. So
Okay. And
at the beginning.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. And did your connection with Nikki started at this point, or it happened later in the Blonde Ambition tour?
No, right away. When Nikki came in, it was like a week before we went on tour. And then I couldn't believe the one singer. I mean, what a, an opportunity of a lifetime to go on this tour. And she was having personal problems and everything, and that didn't work out. So they had to last minute replace her. And then
Oh,
Nikki came in. Same thing. It was a big audition. Nikki came in. Nikki has her own story about this. You'll have to ask her because it's a great story. She came in from Vegas where she was working, and right away, her energy was so great. I was a dancer as well, so I could tell right away she could dance. She had enough dance background like me that we could do a lot. And
oh,
I knew that. So I was super excited about her and just her energy and the way she was with Madonna. It was very like girlfriend, very personable. And I knew it was going to work great. And then as we went on tour, we became buddies, and on our days off, we would hang out as well, and we just became really good friends.
love at first sight.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes. All right. You told us how you met Madonna, your first impressions when you met Madonna. But you were a witness of a prima donna era. How was it in the first album, in Like a Virgin, where you didn't work with her? How was the impact of Madonna in music at that time? And how was your impression before meeting her? Ah, this girl has such a nice future. I believe her, or now I don't believe. How was that?
Yeah, I have, it's funny. I have a couple memories. One was that when I was really struggling, I was living in this house, sleeping on the floor with all these girls. And one day, one of the girls came in. It must have been right when Madonna's first album came out. The girl came in and she said, "Oh my gosh, I was just listening to this album and it sounds just like you." She's like, "You sound so much like the singer Madonna." And I hadn't heard of her yet. And I was like, "Oh, really? Great." And I was in a band at the time, and at that time I wanted to be in a band. I
Hmm.
wanted to be like Stevie Nicks and Fleetwood Mac. I wasn't trying to be a solo artist. So I was in this kind of new wave alternative band. And then later on, when she toured, did the Virgin tour, I remember my bandmate went to that tour, went to the show, and came back and said, "Oh my gosh, you've got to see her perform. She's the most amazing performer." And I remember him saying, like, she dances, and I know you love dancing, so you'll really appreciate that. And of course, I loved her music. I wasn't like a fan of hers, but I appreciated the music. And then I remember being at the gym one time and when Borderline came on, and I was kind of alone in the gym, and I started singing along with the song. It was like, I think the first time I was singing along with one of her records, and I realized how much our voices like sounded great together. So it's interesting that I ended up working with her.
Yes, that's quite interesting to be the witness
Mm,
of this era. All right.
yeah.
Chico, please.
Agora a gente vai falar sobre uma fase muito rica, muito criativa, e uma das preferidas da carreira da Madonna entre os fãs, que é a fase do álbum Like a Prayer, a era da Blonde Ambition Tour, que também foi o período onde houve a descoberta do HIV, um assunto que foi muito latente para a comunidade gay, retratado no filme Na Cama com Madonna. E no final dessa era, houve o lançamento de Just a Dream, single da Donna em 1992. Vamos falar sobre esse período agora.
Donna, in
Mhm.
Like a Prayer album, I think I'm in doubt, even being a great fan, I'm in doubt which is most controversial, Like a Prayer or Erotica. Like a Prayer was pretty controversial because of the religion, the Blonde Ambition tour that just followed the album, the Pope, AIDS, everything. How was
Mm.
this impact for AIDS in that time? It was something new. It was considered a gay disease, a specific gay. How did you see that at that time?
Wow. I was, I'd already been working with her for a long time, and I knew what she was about. And she expressed that in that movie, that she's not just about being a singer. You
Mhm.
know, she's about um, holding up a mirror to people so they can see themselves and they can see all these different aspects of themselves that they're may have shame about, like their sexuality or fear, things like that. She's just being herself out and open. And I grew up very comfortable. Like my brother's been gay since we grew up dressing up in my sister's clothes and dancing together and celebrating life together. I grew up in that community. And I think she has her own story of that, where that was just her community and what she's comfortable with. So in that time, when I go back, a lot of people ask me, like, Blonde Ambition, during that time of making that movie, that was just so normal for me. I lived in Los Angeles. I lived in a major city. I grew up in a certain way. I was a very open person and accepting. And I didn't realize that there were all these people out there that were so afraid to be themselves because they had to be afraid. It wasn't accepted, and Nikki and I get so much great feedback when we play live, because people get to come up and tell their stories and what was going on in that time. And I'm most interested in that, like what was happening to them in that time, and how did this empower them to be themselves? And that just is so moving and touching to me, that we could have been a part of that, or we were doing an AIDS benefit and we could be a part of that when this was the big issue that was going on in our society, in our world. And I had my own personal, we all had our own personal stories living through that, of really having fear and, running to get tested all the time. And you find out this person you just dated was, you get a call and they're like, he's bisexual and you should really, be careful and everything. I mean, this is the way it was at that time. We were all just figuring it out. We were in our 20s, and it was a really hard time, because that's the time you should be out celebrating your life and everything, every part of yourself. So for us, it was an interesting time in that way. But now looking back, the impact we had and the influence on, like, the kids that were coming up, who used to play like some guys come up to us and say, we would play, Donna and Nikki, and we would do all your moves, and you made us feel more comfortable about who we are, and of course all the beautiful dancers and beautiful human beings that were part of that tour and that time. So of course I think about, you say most controversial, I think about that film, and I think about that time, Blonde Ambition, and just the memories of being in Italy and having death threats, and we can't do the show, and there's lasers coming out of the cross and everything. But inside the show, I didn't think it was a big deal. You see that, like, in the movie, it's like we were like, this is entertainment. This is a show, and this is and I knew Madonna's. I knew she had that religious background, but I knew what her pure intentions were. I really respected that. So fully respect. It's like we believed in what she wanted to do, and we were there to stand by her side.
I understand. Yes. Yeah, it was such a visionary act to have information about AIDS on the booklet. Yes, that is, because especially for what you're saying now, because at that time, now thinking, at that time, it was not an issue. It was happening. Now we understand the impact. Years ago, we understand that it was a great thing. And now, when you've just said that, I say, well, now I think it's more visionary than it really was, because nobody was thinking much about it. And she decided to state something about AIDS on her album. She lost a contract with the Pepsi, and so it was big, but now we can see it was big. At the time, probably it was something normal.
Yeah. We definitely were in it, and we definitely were scared that, like, we could die from having sex with someone, some places this still is the case now, where they don't have the information, they don't know how to protect themselves and everything. But medicine has advanced so much now, that we have different things we have to think about. But yeah, it's hard when I really go back and I read the book, the most recent book that was written, biography on Madonna. Do you know what it's called? Rebel, is it Rebel Heart or something? Or do you
The
know the book that was written on her? It like came out a year
the
ago.
last one, it's Gabriel
Rebel,
Mary.
rebel life. I
Yes, that one.
yeah. Yeah.
So I read that and I read up to that part and I was just like, oh my gosh, it was bringing it all back to me.
Yeah,
That time
I
and to piece
imagine.
together all of our professional life. But then I got to have that story of her and her friends and what was going on outside of what we were doing professionally. And
Hmm.
so that made it brought such an understanding and it really brought me back to that time. And my brother was out with us on he came out on tour like to Europe for Blonde Ambition. And my brother was like gay man in his 20s at that time. And, I was really concerned for my brother as well,
Uh-huh.
you know. Um, so we got through it. My brother's good. He's really healthy and
Thank God.
I'm grateful. I'm
Yeah.
grateful we're all here.
Donna, still talking about Like a Prayer, we know that Just a Dream was a single you released.
Mhm.
Was it offered to you by Madonna? Did she offer you? How was this relationship between Just a Dream that you released with Madonna's backing vocal?
Yeah, I remember like 1989, she was always thinking of Nikki and I.
Hmm.
She knew we were artists, we had our own voices and everything. And I remember, I think, being at her house and she gave us or played us some tracks, like songs she had written, because she was very prolific, wrote a lot for her albums. And she had one in mind for me and one in mind for Nikki. And it was like, I was still kind of with my band at that time. It might have been 1989. And I was like, yeah, it's great and everything. But by the time, and I don't even remember what that song was, but when we got back from Blonde Ambition, um, that's when I seriously was like gonna be a solo artist. And I'd had all that exposure. I knew I could get a record deal. I had a team of people around me. And at that time, she seriously like gave me the song Just a Dream.
Hmm.
And she really was like, you got to do this song. It's a great song, but she thought it was too much like Till Death Do Us Part because it has this really fast rhythm. And she just said, go to the studio and have Pat make you a copy of it and see if you like it. So of course I loved it. It's like we have the same range. It was easy to sing. And I just broken up with my boyfriend of
Oh,
3 years.
Oh.
So my
Ooh.
French boyfriend, who I met in 1987 on tour, he was like the waiter pouring our champagne in a club. Um, by the end of Blonde Ambition, I was breaking up with him and leaving that relationship, and it was a lot. So I was really heartbroken, and that song was so perfect in that time for me. So I could like really relate to it. I could really pour my heart into it. Plus, she also thought it was good for me because I wanted to do more like rock edged kind of music. She understood that. I mean, she came from that. Um, so it was perfect. And then what happened was I went in with got my record deal, and I had like 20 songs that I've been
hmm.
working on. A lot of great songs I wrote, I found everything. But of course, the one that they want to focus on was Just a Dream. And like her exact tracks, her demo for her record, which was her record version, they got so attached to that no matter what I did to change it to make it my own, the record company was like, we want exactly her version.
Oh,
And Pat Leonard even tried recutting the whole thing. We did a whole nother version, made it different, and the record company was like, no. So then I was really concerned about just that coming out as my first single because I'm like, I'm an artist. I write my own music. And I was finding myself as an artist too at that
hmm.
time. So I knew I just didn't want to be, oh, it's a Madonna sound alike. And then I had her song.
I
So
understand.
I fought really hard to get my song called Praying for Love to come out as the first single on that album. And then the second single was Just a Dream.
Okay, cool.
My Just a Dream is one of my favorite songs ever. because I
Oh,
remember when I was little, I heard and I closed my eyes and thought, oh my God, I love this song. So it's one of my favorite 80s songs. It's just a dream.
great. Yeah, I love it. I love it. I still like when I do shows, people always like call out that song. It's fun.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Chico, please.
Vamos falar de um assunto que a gente prefere muito, que é o nosso preferido, que são as turnês, né? A gente tem aqui uma representante, participante da Ruta Girl até Confessions, isso é muita história. Eu queria convidar os meninos para fazerem perguntas sobre as turnês e principalmente a impressão que a dona teve com a passagem da Girlie Show aqui no Brasil em 1993.
So, Donna, you perform in 6 different tours, and which ones are your favorites? Do you have any memories backstage, something like that?
So I'd say Blonde Ambition and Girly Show.
Mm.
Part of that is because my involvement in the shows was so great. You know, we were constantly working. We were working so hard, so we had so much energy, and we trained really well for those tours. You know, we worked out. We were just like at our prime physically. The working with Vincent Patterson and all the choreographers were incredible. It was very theatrical, and they had it was just so exciting to like sit there when they were coming up with concepts for those numbers and be part of it, you know, like thinking about the concept for the Vogue performance at the MTV Awards. And we were all there around the table talking about it and then having it happen. Just that time was so magical. Also, we were so young, and just bouncing all over the world. And, you know, we would finish the concert, go to our rooms. We'd say, let's meet in half an hour downstairs and go out. So it was just nonstop, constantly going.
I see.
Super fun.
I imagine living this time. I can't imagine actually, no? And what were your impressions about the Girlie Show in Brazil? The crowd, the
Oh my
Brazilian.
gosh. Oh my gosh, I remember our hotel. I mean, it was insane, like people climbing up the building. And
Crazy
I was like,
Brazilians.
who does that? Like, who does that? You know,
Brazilians
they're like
do that,
risking
Donna.
their lives to come up the building. And as those tours went on, people started getting to know us too. So it was hard. Like, you couldn't just go out walking by yourself anymore, you know? And I love that. I love to just be a person on the street, just experiencing the local culture, you know? And it was just so crazy. The crowds, and I mean, it was just unbelievable.
Yeah, yes. I remember Madonna had an impersonator in Brazil, and I think she tried to visit the beaches in Rio. She tried to visit some places, but it was quite impossible because it was a great impact, you know? So
Yeah.
yeah. So in Brazil, it was such an impact. And you also participated of the biggest concerts ever. It was Who's That Girl tour in Paris with
Oh yeah.
130,000 people. And,
Arc de So. Yeah.
in Rio, yes. And in Rio, in Maracanã, it was 120,000 people. How was it for you, a girl from the valley, just like you called yourself, being praised by millions, thousands of people in a concert like that, Donna?
I mean, it was just so much joy, honestly. You know, I mean, they were there for her, but we were such a big part of her vision. And to be on stage and look out at the people, they're so happy. And we're so happy, you know? And it was just like, and you've got like all this adrenaline going and you're living your purpose. And you know, my mom's dream was to be a singer, dancer, and she never got to have that dream come true. So I was there every day. I realized how lucky I was. I was grateful to be there, and that I mean, I realized how fortunate I was, you know. And as the years have gone by, and I see those overhead pictures of the audience at that Parc de Sceaux, I mean, It's unbelievable. I remember the feeling and the smell of the audience. You know, when there was a part when she was singing, nowhere to run, nowhere to hide from the look of love, from the eyes of pride, where she like froze or something at the end of a catwalk. And I remember just, you know, she used to talk about that, how vulnerable that was to just freeze like that. And there's all those people, and who knows who's in the audience, you know? It's kind of scary. But
Yeah.
the when she froze like that, and it was just those frozen moments that I got to look out at the audience, and then there were no iPhones. So it was like the lighters
Oh,
up.
yeah.
And we just saw this ocean of lighters and these waves of people, and at the end was like a castle.
Wow.
I mean, the whole thing. Yeah, that's another peak moment that I remember. And just being so dynamic and theatrical, and it was just ultimate joy and happiness. And a lot of people, I mean, that's what's fun about going out and doing the shows with Nikki. Like we were all there together.
I
We were
see.
all there together in that celebration, and we get to just come together and, you know, be like, yeah, those are great times, you know.
I see. And how was it now recently when you went to New York to see Madonna in celebration tour with Nikki? How was the feeling to leave that as an audience now?
Well, I had seen her in different shows, a couple different shows, but not with Nikki,
Uh-huh.
you know. And you know, Nikki, it's so funny. I think Nikki thought maybe we were going to get called up because we were like right there in front of the stage, but I knew Madonna too well that there's no way she's going to not have any, she would have prepared us to get up. Like she wouldn't
Hmm.
have just pulled that on us last minute. It would have been, we would have known, we would have been prepared, you know, and I knew it. And so it was just interesting. I was, you know, I was really like, I always enjoy her shows, and I'm always inspired by her strength and her stamina and all this and her focus. And I just kept looking at her like she looks great. And after what she'd been through,
Yeah.
you know, we were all just like, wow, we're so
Yeah.
lucky she's here. And I was just grateful to be there. They invited us, and it was nice, and we had a great seat. And, you know, I was just loving it all. And as anyone would be blown away by the production, the dancers alone, the costumes totally blew me away, you know, and the music, the arrangements, I understand, you know, putting all that music together and the arrangements, like me being on the other side and doing production myself, I so understand it.
Yeah.
And what she was going for in that tour. I just loved it. I know a lot of fans after the fact, people were reaching out to us like, fans were disappointed you guys didn't get up and da, da, da. But I didn't go in with any of that expectation,
Hmm.
honestly. I mean, of course it would be nice. I had a brief moment of like, oh my God, what if we did get called up? Like, am I even wearing something cool? You know, and I wasn't prepared,
But
but it would have been fun.
what was it
Yeah.
like to listen to your voice in some backing vocals?
I mean, all those tours she was using some of those vocals. So, I mean, I was so used to it. And it's so like those vocals are iconic on that song.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, it was just beautiful.
Yeah.
I I just loved I love documentaries. So I
Hmm.
love the aspect of that tour documenting her life in her earlier years. That was
Yeah.
really fascinating to me.
Yes. Cool.
When we saw Dawn and Nick at celebration freaking out. Oh my God. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
It may have been a one-time deal, so I'm glad we were there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we were glad.
Hmm.
Chico, please.
Olha, um assunto que sempre foi muito interessante para a gente foi acompanhar a relação da Madonna com a Donna e a Nick fora do palco, o relacionamento delas, a amizade, a proximidade, e é sobre isso que a gente vai falar agora.
Yeah. During all these years close to Madonna, did she give you the freedom to access her more vulnerable side?
Wait, can you repeat one more
Yeah.
time?
yeah, during all these years close to Madonna, did she give you the freedom to access her more vulnerable side?
You mean to see the more vulnerable
Yeah,
side?
this connection of the stage, of the music, the vulnerable side, the close side with Madonna. How was
Yeah, I
how
mean,
was that?
yeah, absolutely. Like I couldn't, you can't imagine what it is for somebody's life, like all that work and that pressure and then balancing family with it and everything. So I got to, see how she balanced everything and she did a great job. And she also, when I had a child, I between tours, I got pregnant. And she was very supportive of that because I was pretty much single, having a baby on my own initially. And she was just like, you can do it, you got this. And then a year later, another tour came up. And she hired me on that tour, like I had a one-year old child. And then from then on, she really was like understanding, and she would let me know how she understood how hard it was to like be out on one of those tours and to have your kid and to always be thinking about your kid and balancing that. I felt it was really nice to work for someone who understood that, and she let me know that. And just being there to see, all aspects
Mm-hmm.
of her life. It was really sweet over the years, really nice.
In the end of the day, you become friends, right? You have a friendship relationship, huh?
I think so. I mean, I feel like, she's closer to people when she's working with them. And then a lot of people, when you're not working together anymore, there's new people in your life. And that's very natural. I feel like we were friends for sure, but it was always more rooted and it was a professional relationship.
The opportunity of being together brought you together as friends. But after
Yeah, yeah,
not, I understand. I understand.
yeah.
And Donna, I have two similar questions here. The first one is, what is the greatest lesson you learned from Madonna?
Oh, let me just think about this for a second. I mean, right away, it comes to me
If you think it's
to
easy,
not have any,
what is the
to
one
not have any
lesson?
shame, to not have shame
Oh,
um, about anything, to be around this person who had no shame, and of course you have fears like we all do, but to be willing to just stand out there and be yourself and speak out for what you stand for, to not be afraid, it was so powerful, and I learned that. I also learned by seeing her in her life, there's things about that I wanted, and there were things that I didn't want that weren't right for me.
mhm.
So I got to learn to really look in myself. Like at first, when I first started working with her, of course, it was like my big sister. I want to wear the clothes she wears and I want to go to the same place. And it's it mirrored my relationship with my big sister.
I see.
As time went on, I realized that like I was different and I got to know myself more. I got to know myself as an artist. And I got to know that like what could that it satisfied me by just making music and being expressive and being an artist. I didn't have to have like massive success. I didn't have to sell millions of records to be happy.
Mhm.
Where early on I had those big dreams and everything, and I got a really good taste of it. And I loved those times. And now I'm just so grateful to keep making music. And, whoever finds the music and it helps them and they enjoy it, it's a huge blessing,
Yes.
and I'm just happy that I have the inspiration to keep doing it. And that's what fulfills me the most.
Mhm.
And just being alive and having my family and everything and having you guys and beautiful community to connect with, which will always have this connection, because of our history and passions and everything. And I appreciate her more than ever, and her path, and just I feel like there are just certain people that we can look to for inspiration. And as they, as a woman in the business, watching a woman, gracefully aging and getting older and embodying more wisdom and compassion, things like that. She's a great example
Yeah, I see.
that we all can do that as well.
Great, great. And what do you think she has learned with you? What have you taught her?
I mean, she used to talk about, loyalty and I think just someone who would be by, I would hope that someone who like was sticking by her side. We always used to say there was a slippery stage and we'd all say to each other, I got your back, I got your back. So to have that time where you knew somebody was really there for you.
Okay, great, great.
Yeah.
And how is your relationship nowadays? Do you still talk? How is it?
No, I'm not in touch with her personally. I mean, there was a long time when there was a lot of email and everything as well after the tours or in between tours. I communicate when I need to with her management.
I
Yeah,
see.
that's it. And I totally understand it because it's, life is so full and there's so many people that come and go and once again, I'm so grateful to have been part of
Exactly.
that
Yes.
that time. Yeah.
I see. I see. Chances for a new collab, chances for
Oh, who
working
knows?
with you.
I mean, anything is possible. I know people would love it. It's so sweet. It always comes up when we do interviews. And I mean,
Yeah.
Nikki and I would totally be open. Of course,
Mhm.
I had this idea that I would love to, you know, do something with her, with Nikki, where we're really part of a cause, where it's like we're giving our time and we're going to support a cause together, where nobody's like getting paid. We're just going there out of the goodness of our hearts. And I think that would be a great opportunity if that ever came up. Yeah, we'll see. But
Yeah.
I'll
We
always
hope.
admire and respect her, of course.
Sure, sure. Yes. All right. Thank you. Chico?
Literais, a gente tem agora para finalizar algumas perguntas que são dos nossos membros, dos nossos administradores. Donna, we have some team members questions here. Madonna Literal members. The first question is mine. What do you know about Brazilian music?
Wow.
Do you like something?
I mean, I feel like, I've worked with a lot of different, percussionists and people over the years where I know about the influence. But when I was in Brazil last, I was playing in a big park. I did a big show. And it was one night where I was really jet lagged and I didn't go out. And I wish I did because they were going to hear like Brazilian music in a small venue. And my band got to go, but I didn't go. So I have yet to like really immerse myself in and in being there and immerse myself in the music. But I'm familiar with the drumming and there's certain artists that that have come from there or been influenced by Brazilian music that I appreciate.
Great, great.
Ok. Clau, quem pergunta?
The first question is Gabriel. The Truth or Dare was an iconic documentary remembered by everyone. A lot of material was edited or out because of the film's runtime. So, do you remember anything that was filmed but didn't make into the final cut?
Well, I do remember like we did so many personal interviews. So they'd be like, we'd get a call or we'd get a notice saying, be in room 203 at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, wear your pajamas. So we'd like go into the room, they'd have like a bed that was kind of like all made. We'll get in the bed, and then we'd have to be laying there in this bed, and we'd get interviewed. So they were really like diving deep into our past, asking us about our childhoods. And for me, I came from like my parents divorced when I was young, and so I was telling my story. But then after the fact, I was kind of felt bad that I didn't want to hurt my father by talking about that, and it was so personal. So a lot of those personal interviews, like Nikki, same thing, with us, didn't make it in. And I was at the when we were at the preview of the movie, I was happy that it didn't. I was happy to not have all that stuff told because it was my story and it was personal. It was one of those things I didn't feel 100% great about saying all of that, but I just kind of got caught up in the moment and was just talking about my childhood and everything. So I think a lot more personal things on us, and some of it ended up in the movie. So on
Mhm.
some people, which you saw.
Sérgio?
Nice. We have a question by Livian, and she asks you, how do you see ageism in this music industry? Nowadays, Madonna faces hate, and, especially because she is on the spotlight. People are always commenting on her appearance, about getting old, and she has been listening to that, receiving that since erotica era. How do you see this ageism nowadays?
I mean, I know it's there. It's so unfortunate. Um, and I just finished reading Cher's autobiography. She's older than Madonna.
Mhm.
She's like, what is Cher, like 78 or 80 or something? Um, I just like, I'm appreciating all these singers and people that have been around so long and they have so much wisdom and they're still so beautiful and they're taking care of themselves and they're healthy. So I'm seeing it in a whole different place. And I think also because of the genre of music that I do, I don't have to deal with that. I'm not trying to get on pop radio, but I can imagine her getting on pop radio. I don't know.
Yeah.
Is it just like, isn't there just a rule like you're too old, and um Cher went through that as well and she broke records with that. So it's always possible. It's always possible,
Yeah. Yes.
and I think Madonna could do it, and she's already done it anyway.
Yeah.
So it exists, but I think it's important to keep, following and be inspired by these artists that have just been around decade after decade, and they're in a lot of ways getting better and better, and they're sharing their wisdom now. They're giving back, and to value that, I think that's really important. And if they go and play a concert, go see them.
Yeah.
Like go see them. Go see Cyndi Lauper. I know she's kind of finished now, but um, I'm debating on going to see her next week. I'm like, should I go take that plane flight and that hotel and everything to go see her? She may never play again a tour. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think we just need to like for ourselves value these people that have been around,
Yeah. I got this
and
feeling.
we love them and we value them. Yeah.
The first question is from Rafa. And what do you remember about the impact of voguing and voguing, which later became a much popular dance style? How was your own experience and contact with voguing?
Wow. I just remember when I first saw it, I loved it that it was like so clean. I think the guys, Luis and Jose, were showing us moves. Like maybe we met them and they showed us a little bit. I'm trying to remember like the Vogue performance, or no, the MTV performance with Madonna where we first did it on TV. It was for me, it was like part of a dance routine. I thought it was cool, but I wasn't like in the underground clubs in New York knowing where I came from. I didn't know all that. I appreciated those guys and how they taught us and they worked with us on it. But I didn't know it was going to become this big thing. And when we went in to record the song, I knew it was amazing. I knew because of the beat and the vocals, the way it all came together, I knew that was going to be huge.
Yeah. Yes.
And then when we did the video, that was just like crazy. It was just the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think because when the video came out, I really knew, wow, this is going to have such an impact.
Yes. Clau, let me just break the protocol for a while and remind you that
All right.
Rafa was supposed to
Yeah.
be here. Rafael is our team member too. He
Yeah.
is supposed for translations, transcripts, and he said, "I wish I could be there because Donna is my
He
diva. I
almost
love you."
cry.
He almost cried
Oh,
because of the schedule, and he really asked you to send him a kiss, to send him an exclusive message for Rafael, Donna. Could you please do that?
how do you say his name?
Rafael.
Rafael.
Rafael?
Yes, or Rafa, if you prefer Rafa.
Rafa.
Yes.
Rafa, we missed you. We wish you were here next time.
Yeah.
There, peace and blessings.
Next time, for
Thank
sure, for
you.
sure. Thank you, Donna. Thank you, Donna.
I almost sang him a song, but next time.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, but this is my personal request, you know? I'm kidding, I'm kidding. The last question, our last question is from Marcelo. He asks you an advice for the ones who want to pursue a music career. What advice would you give for someone who really wants to go into the musical career?
Play an instrument.
Yes.
Learn an instrument really well that can accompany your voice, of course, and work on your songwriting. Just write what's just purely in your heart, and don't let, if you have voices in your head saying this isn't good enough or something like that, like don't let that stop you. Just get it down on paper, keep focusing on your goals, and just it's like your mantra you say every day, where what you want and where you want to be, and you see yourself and you visualize yourself, and there's so many powerful tools to do that. So I would take advantage of it, do vision boards and all kinds of things, because I believe we really manifest our lives from our thoughts. So you want to keep those thoughts pure and stay focused on your goal and really work strong on your craft and really learn that instrument.
I see. And the last question by Rodrigo, right?
Yeah.
All
You
right.
can read.
Yeah, Rodrigo is asking you, Donna, about the new way music is consumed nowadays. He asks you if there is still space for real music besides all the theatrical act, all the video clips. Do you think music itself still sells?
I think it does, and I think, maybe on a different scale, because of, there has to be a certain amount of marketing and everything to get music out to the masses.
Mm-hmm.
But music is there if you look for it. I feel like it is there, and artists are getting more tools and more empowered to learn how to get their music out there. And you can search and, get really specific with the genre that you love and spend time finding music. And I always say to people, like, share songs, like if a song moves you, send it to your friends, because that's a way to you guys can help us by send a song. If you love one of my songs and it makes you feel a certain way, send it to a bunch of friends and say, chill out to this, or listen to this before you go to bed. It'll put you in a really good place. And I do that with my friends. If I know they're going through something or they're looking for something, I'll send them music that I just discovered that I love.
Yes, music is still an experience. It's not only a TikTok trend. It's not video clip, or it's still music. It has always been, and it will always be.
It's a meaningful part of our lives, and it takes us through our lives. And there's like songs that are from your life, and then there's albums, and so I hope people still will find an album and love the whole album and play it, and then years to come you'll go back and listen to that album. You'll remember this time in your life. That's really powerful.
Yes, that is. All right, Chico.
Literais, esse foi o nosso papo com Donna De Lory. Olha que honra e olha que material incrível que a gente está trazendo para vocês. Espero que vocês curtam muito. Donna, thank you so much to be here with us. E Literais, aproveitem, compartilhem bastante esse material para que novas entrevistas, novos bate-papos apareçam, para a gente deixar cada vez mais rico o nosso estudo sobre Madonna.
All right,
Should I leave you with a song?
Just a second. I just would like you to leave us with a message for our Brazilian fans. All right.
Mhm.
For sure, after that, we would like to listen to you, no doubt.
No.
But what message what message would you like to share with your Brazilian fans, with our followers? We would like to hear from you.
Yeah.
If you have any words, anything you'd like to say, this is your moment, Donna. This is our moment, Donna, but now it's your moment, please.
Well, I just want to say I'm so happy to be here with you, and I have
Thank
so
you.
many beautiful memories of being in Brazil. And I know that I always had a lot of support there for my music, and also Nikki and Donna, of course. When we put out our song Rain, you guys put it to the top of the charts, and I really acknowledge that, and I appreciate you. And let's do it again. Let's
Yeah.
get together again. I look forward to seeing you again.
Cool,
Thank you
cool.
so much. I have no idea how much I'm happy to have you here. Thank
Hmm.
you.
Would you like to say a few words about your remix with Tracy Young and Nikki? And please invite Nikki to have an interview with us. I've been in touch with
Oh,
her.
I will. I'll tell her.
I've been talking to her on
Yes,
Instagram.
Nikki has a lot to say, and she's amazing. She's incredible, and you have to talk to her. So, yeah, of course. And I'll tell her about you. What was the other thing?
About the remix with Tracy Young and Nikki. Would you like to say something about it?
Well, our last remix that came out a couple weeks ago is called "I Know You, I Love You," and that's a song that Nikki and I had recorded a few years ago. But Tracy Young heard us doing it when we were doing an event together, and she loved this song, and she said, "I want to do a remix of that." So she did a great remix. She had some of her other remixers do different remixes on the single, so that's out now. And we're going to continue to work together. We also have a great remix of a song called Last Night a DJ Saved My Life, which is like talking about throwback to the 80s. That was an important song that we danced to way back when in the clubs. So it was really fun to do our own version of that song, and we'll see what we all do together. I think we're going to do really great things. We're going to continue to work together.
We hope so.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Of
Donna.
course.
You mean the world to us. You don't know how much,
Oh,
you don't know
Yes.
how important it was for us. Now I think I can.
We're so nervous because, oh my God.
let me sing a song for you, okay?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I keep your photograph by my bed to remind me that I was part of your life.
Oh
I
my
say
God.
my prayers to the Sandman that he'll find me fast asleep, but sleep has always been kind. And in my dreams, you'll always be mine. But in the morning when I wake, I remember that my heart does ache. Was it just a dream? Did I feel your devotion? Dreams are never what they seem. Did we just go through the motions?
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
That was for you.
I'm
Thank
so
you.
emotional.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
No,
I have so many versions of the song, so.
It was just literally a dream.
dream.
Dream come true.
Oh,
No words, just tears to explain. And we would like to thank you so much, so much, so much.
mhm.
No words.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for asking. Thank you for listening. And thank you for all of your love and joy that you're sharing and putting out to the world.
Thanks for
Really
your
Thank
time.
you. Yeah.
See you,
All right.
Donna. Bye bye.
Take
Goodbye.
care. Thank
Thank you.
you.
Bye.
You're welcome.